Today's daf is daf mem, but we'll need a little bit of a review as an introduction to daf mem of Lamed Tes Amud Beis. There were two brises. In the first brisa, the Gemara was compelled to assume and interpret the brisa as referring to a shar muad. And in the second brisa, at the surface of it, there's a machlokas being recorded here between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yaakov about the case of a shar that's owned by a cherishot of a katan, and it went ahead and attacked another shar. And Rabbi Yaakov said that you pay chatzi nezik. Now, the Gemara vacillates back and forth about the second brisa as to whether or not we're talking about a shar tam or a shar muad. And here we have the sheet of Rava in the second brisa that we're talking about a shar muad, and there is no machlokes between Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yaakov accepts Rabbi Yehuda's shita hook, line, and sinker, which is made up of three different principles. And Rav Yaakov is only coming to interpret Rav Yehuda, but not to disagree with Rav Yehuda. Again, all this is according to Rava. Now, what principles of Rav Yehuda did Rav Yaakov accept? Number one, he accepted the principle called Sad Tamus Bimkomo Medes, that even when the shar becomes shar muad, the original Chatzi Nezek of shar tam remains in place. He also accepts the second principle of Rabbi Yehuda, that for shar muad, all you need is shmira pchusa, which again is counterintuitive. Shar tam requires a higher level of shmira, and shar muad suffices with a basic level of shmira. And number three, Rav Yaakov accepted the principle of mamidim apetropos letam ligvos migufo, that even though the shar is owned by a cherishot of a katan, nevertheless, Bezdin will collect from the shar tam based on the apotropos. Abai rejects Rava's interpretation of the second brisa, and Abai is of the opinion that there is a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rav Yaakov. And the Gemara analyzes what is the nature of the machlokes between Rav Yehuda and Rav Yaakov according to Abai. And the answer is that the brisa, as Rav had said, according to Abai as well, the brisa is talking about a shar muad, but there was no shmir at all. No shmir was provided. Now, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the shita of Rabbi Yehuda is going to generate a halacha of chayiv nezik shalim in this case. And the reason for that is because since he didn't provide any shmira, so he's chayiv both for the tzad tamus and the tzad muadus. Chatzi nezik for tzad tam, chatzi nezik, we're going to add another addition for tzad muad. But Rabbi Yaakov, on the other hand, although he accepts Rabbi Yehuda as far as the principle of tzad tamus b'mkomo medes, which means that when the animal becomes a shar muad, we add muadus to the tzad tamus. But nevertheless, Rabbi Yaakov rejects Rabbi Yehuda as far as mamidim lahem apotropos letam ligvos migufa, and therefore, according to Rav Yaakov, we cannot collect from the shar tam, and we only collect from the muadus shebo, which is palgad nizka. So whereas Rav Yehuda would hold that he pays nezik shalem because mamidim lem apotropos, etc., Rav Yaakov holds he only play chatzi nezek as a shar muad because ein mamidim apotropos. And the Gemara now wants to suggest that Abaye's interpretation of this price of Rav Yaakov, namely that there's machlok between Rav Yehuda and Rav Yaakov, is more logical. And why is that so? What's the advantage of Abaye? The Gemara says that according to Abaye, we really understand why the first price, as we said at the beginning of today's discussion, is interpreted as shar muad. Because if it was a shar tam, then the first price would have to go into the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yaakov about whether ma'amidim lehem apotropos. So we skip that whole step by talking and addressing the case of a shar muad. But according to Rava, who holds that Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yaakov have no debate whatsoever, whereas Rabbi Yaakov is only coming to interpret Rabbi Yehuda. And therefore, the chatzi nezek of tzad tamus is based on the fact of mamidim apotropos. So then, why didn't the first brisa tolerate an interpretation of shar tam? Why did you have to interpret the first brisa as referring to a shar muad? If it would be a shar tam, then we could talk about a case where the shmira was not provided for a shar tam. And that's the Gemara here on the top of today's daf mem. What does it mean the proper shmira wasn't provided for a shar tam? Well, that depends on the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. According to Rabbi Yehuda, we raise the standard and the requirement of shmira for a shar tam to the level of shmira ma'ula, which we said was that paradox, because with regard to shar muad, a shmira pchusa, the low level of shmira suffices. But in any event, according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, on the other hand, all that we require in the case of shar tam, like the case of shar muad, is shmira pchusa, and we're talking about a case low of shmira klal. And the Gemara here on the top of Daf Mem, which we learned yesterday, quotes the brisa of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov as holding echad tam v'echad muad sheshamim shmira pchusa p'turim. Okay, so now we're going to ask the kasha of Rav Acha bar Abaye. We should interpret the first brisa as a case of, in other words, let me put it to this way. The kasha here is that we don't see any chidush in the first brisa. V'hakamash malon Rabbi Yaakov. So now we're up to the the second line here. Just 1 second. I'm sorry, the 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth line down from the top. This is where we got to yesterday. In the case of a shah that was owned by a cher shot of a katan, the chiddush is of Rabbi Yaakov, demamidin lepachopis letam ligvos migufa. So again, we're back to the kasha of Rav Acha. Why did we interpret? What forced us to interpret the first price as referring to a shar muad? Why not interpret the first price as referring to a shar tam? And the chiddush is that mamidim lema petropis. Amalei, so Ravina responds to Rav Acha, yeah, Rava could have said that. Hachi Kamma, Rava said, chada de ispektarti time. I would rather interpret the brisa in which there, in a way that there are two different chidushim. Because if we're going to interpret that Rav Yaakov is talking about a shar muad, then we have two chidushim. Number one, that Rav Yaakov holds like Rabbi Yehuda as far as the requirement and the standard of shmira that we demand for shar muad, namely shmir pchusa, and also the chiddush of Rabbi Yaakov that he holds like Rabbi Yehuda that tzad tamus b'mkom omedes. And we can add to boot that Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yaakov both agree that mamidim apotropos ligvos mitam migufa. If Rav, on the other hand, would have interpreted the first price as referring to a shar tam, there would be only one chiddush that ma'amidim apetropos l'tam. We would not know that Rabbi Yehuda, that Rabbi Yaakov accepts Rabbi Yehuda's shita that tzad tamus b'mkom omedes, or for that matter, that shmir pchusa is sufficient for a sharmuah. However, Ravina wants to answer the kasha of Abaye and Rava from the brisa that indicates that we certainly have a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yaakov, whereas Abaye said there is no machlokas. So Ravina Amar, he wants to give an alternative reconciliation. The first brisa, we're going to interpret like Rava, and we're talking about a sharmuad, and he provided a shmir pchusa, which according to Rabbi Yehuda is sufficient for a sharmuad, and tzad tamus b'mkom omedes. Therefore, he's chayav chatzi nezek of tamus. And the reason for that is that mamidim apetropos, and for a shar tam, we need a higher level of shmira. He only provided a lower basic level of shmira, and therefore you pay chatzi nezek as a tam. But that shmira is enough to pater him for the tzad muadus. And when the second brisa indicates that there's machlokes between Rav Yaakov and Rav Yehuda, the machlokas does not touch on anything that that we mentioned in Rava in terms of Yaakov and Rabbi Yehuda, but rather machlokas is on a totally different level, right? So Abaye's objection to Rava, how can you tell me that lo pligi, and there's no machlokas between Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Yehuda? We have a brisa that explicitly records that there's a machlokas between Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Yehuda. It's a totally different machlokas. Rishus mashani kabeinayu. What's the case? The case is kigon davi muad. The shor is the sharmuad in the hands of the cheresh, and then we appointed apetropos. V'nispakecha cheresh v'nishtapa ashot avigdil hakoton, and now we have a sharmuad because there was already muadus established during the time that the cheresh was a cheresh. But now, after having established the shor as a shor muad, nispakeach cheresh, the cheresh is no longer a cheresh. And the question is, what's the status of the shor? Rabbi Yehuda Sovar Reik B'Chetz Kasa. The shor has already established itself as a shor muad, and it continues to be mechayiv nezek shalem, even after the pikeach, the cheresh becomes pikeach. Rabbi Yehuda Sovar Rishus Meshana. Rabbi Yehuda holds that whatever process that was in effect to generate a shemu adus during the time that the owner of the shor was a cheresh, and there was only an apotropos that was appointed, that is not relevant to the bailim when now they become nishtapa. And therefore the shor goes back to its original status of being a shor tam. Tana Rabbanon, we learned in a brisa, apotropsin mishalmim in aliyah v'yeg mishalmim kofen. We appoint this trustee, the apotropis, on the shore of the Yisomim, and the payment for in this case shor amuad, right? Let's emphasize that's a shor amuad of the Yisomim is min aliyah, like any shor amuad that pays from the bank account. V'ein mishalmim kofen. But the brisa records that if the shor kills a human being, then the din is that the bailim normally would pay kofer. But here in this case, who's responsible for the fact that the shor got loose and killed a man? It was the apotropos. And the apotropos does not pay kofer. So the Gemara tries to clarify this brisa. Man tana kufra kapar v'yasmi la b'nei kapar ninu. When it says ein mishalmin kofer, it means that we don't take kofer from the Yisomim. And the reason for that is because the whole essence of a kapara of kofar is irrelevant to the yisomim. They are la b'nei kaparnin. And that's if we assume that the nature and the essence of the tashlum of kofar is a kapara. And it's a kapara and atonement for the Baal Hashar for not watching his shor properly, and the shor went out and killed a person. But in the case of the shor shal yisomim, they're potter from kofar, because the yisomim don't need kapara, they're ketanim. Omer Rav Chizda, this Tana reflects the Shita Rabbi Yishmael ben Oshel Rabbi Yochanan Broki Sanya. We have a brisa that records a dispute regarding the nature of kofar. The pasuk says in kofar yushas olav in Parshas Mishpat v'nosan pidyon nafsho, and this kofar is the main nizak. That's according to the Tanakama. So the deceased, who's called the nizak, that was killed by the shor, is worth so and so on the market when he was alive, obviously. Whereas Rabbi Yishmael ben Oshel Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka resists the shita, rejects it. He says, "Dmei mazik, no, it's the mazik who has to be mechaper for himself, and therefore we will evaluate the shovi of the Baal Hashar. He has to pay his own ransom in order to achieve kapar for himself." My lava kamiflagi to Rabbanan Sabri Kufra Mamonahu. According to the Tanakama, this price of the Chachamim, the nature of Tashum Kofar is mamon. It's not a kapara. And therefore he has to pay, like in any case of a mazik, the value of the nizak. Rabbi Yishmael ben Oshel, Rabbi Yochanan ben Sovar Kufra kapara. The tashlum of kofar is a kapara for the Baal Hashar. How much was the Baal Hashar worth? He should really die. So instead of dying, we're going to allow him to ransom him and pay his, meaning the Baal Hashar's value. And this is the interpretation of the machlokes offered by Rav Chizda. Rav Papa lo. Rav Papa says that's not the right way to go. Let's not accept the explanation of Rav Chizda. Kuli alma lo pligi, everybody agrees, kufra kapara. Certainly a kofar is a kapara. That's the essence of a kofar. What's a machlokas? Rabbanan Sabri ben Nizak Shaimina, Rabbi Yishmael ben Oshel Rabbi Yochanan ben Mazik Shaimina. And this is all based on drushos. The Rabbanan hold that when we evaluate how much money the Baal Hashar HaHoreg has to pay in order to achieve kapara, we evaluate the nizak. You want to be mechaper for this avera that you were negligent in watching the shor and you killed a person. How much was that nizak worth on the shuk of avodah? But Rabbi Yishmael ben Oshel ben Brochen says b'demazik shaymina, and that makes sense because kufra kapara. And since kufra is kapara, you have to be mechaper for yourself. You deserve to die for not guarding the shor. So that's called Tmei Mazik Shaimina. My time of the Rabbanon. Why do the Rabbanon hold that we should evaluate the kofar in terms of the nizak? And the answer is Nemra Shisa Lamata V'Nemra Shisa Lamala. With regard to a shor muad that kills a person, it says in the pasuk in kofar yushas. But the pasuk of Yushas also appears earlier in the parsha with regard to Dmei Vlodos. And there it says, Kasha Yoshis Olav. Ma'ala Halan, just like in the case of Dmei Vlodos. Bidin Nizak, when we evaluate the loss of the Nizak, we do it through the nizak, which are the velados in this case. Is afkan here too, by virtue of the gzeira shava, in the case of kofar bin nizak. Rabbi Yishmael ben Oshel ben Sovar ben asan pidyon nafsho ksiv. He should be poda his own nefesh. Who has to be poda his own nefesh? The mazik and the mazik is now paying a kofer in order to achieve a kapar for his own nefesh. And therefore, we're going to evaluate the dmei mazik. For Rabbanon, why did the Rabbanon reject this diuk of pidyon nafsho? In pidyon nafsho, you're right. The whole purpose of the kofer is to be podes nefesh. However, how do you evaluate how much money he has to give as a kofer? It's not a case where you're short killed and ever. There you pay a set amount of shloshim shalevet. But mi kisha mina bin nizak shayminon. We, according to the Rabbanon, assume that in order to achieve a pidyon nefesh, you have to pay the shovi of the nizak. That's the way we evaluate this kofer, by estimating the value of the nizak. And that's where the mazik and how the mazik is going to achieve a pidyon nefesh. Now, once the Gemara picks up the din of kofer for Yisomim, the Gemara raises other questions about kofer. Mishabeach le Rava le Rav Nachman b'de Rav Acha bar Yaakov the Adam Gadolhu. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think is pshat here, and you have to look into your Gemara and tell me if that's what you have in your commentary. What I think is happening here is that Rava was Mishabeach Rav Nachman to Rav Acha bar Yaakov. But I have to tell you, the Masechet has a totally different. According to Masechet, Rava was Mishabeach Rav Acha bar Yaakov. But I don't believe that's so, because the Gemara is going to bring a whole set of questions that Rav Acha bar Yaakov fired against Rav Nachman. So it seemed to me that Rava was being Mishabeach Rav Nachman. So when it says in the Gemara, Mishabeach le Rava li Rav Nachman, it means that Rava was Mishabeach Rav Nachman in the presence of Rav Acha bar Yaakov. What do you have in your Gemara?
Exactly as you said. Rava Shibech ba'azne Rav Nachman et Rav Acha bar Yaakov.
Okay, so it's 2 against, I guess, 0, because that's the way the Masechet learned it. I thought that Rav was being Mishabeach Rav Nachman, but you're saying Rav Mishabeach Rav Acha. Okay.
Katuv kan be'ozne Rav Nachman et Rav Acha. Okay.
Right. I'm saying that that's not the way I understood it. So how do you read the next line in the Gemara? Amalei l'sheyavel yadcha v'yenu liyadid. So that means that when Rav Acha shows up, bring him to me, meaning Rav Nachman is talking, correct?
Rav Nachman.
Okay. So Rav Acha showed up in front of Rav Nachman. Amalei. So I guess Rav Nachman should be firing questions at Rav Acha. Boy minai milsa. How does your translation?
Boy minai milsa. Sha'al mimeni dvar halacha.
Yeah, okay, but Amar Le, does he say something on Amar Le? Who's talking to who?
Amar Le Rav Nachman.
So Rav Nachman is talking to Rav Acha and asking Rav Acha to fire a question. Boy minei, and Rav Acha is firing a question Rav Nachman. That doesn't make any sense, right? Because if you want to prove that Rav Acha is the gadol, then Rav Nachman should be firing questions at Rav Acha. I don't get it. Anyway, so he asked him the following question: Shor shel shnei shutvim, ketzad mishalmim kofer. When a shor is owned by 2 people and it kills a man, who's going to pay the kofer? Mishalim high kofer v'high kofer. Should we split the kofer? No, I'm sorry. Mishalim high kofer means each one should pay a full kofer. That doesn't make any sense. Kofer echad amrachman of lo shnei kofer. Torah is only requiring 1 kofer. But the other possibility is to say high chatzi kofer There's one kofer, we split it in half between the two owners. That's not good either. Why? Because kofer sholem omer rachmanu v'lo chatzi kofer. Each one of the owners, who's called a mazik, is paying half a kofer. The Torah says kofer sholem and not chatzi kofer. Just 1 second here. He says that this is not a diuk in the pasuk, but rather it's a logical conclusion. And the truth is, he points out here in the name of the Bali Atosis that there is such a thing as paying chatzi kofer, according to Rav Yossi Aglili, in the case of a shor tam, or in the case where you kill the chatzi eved chatzi ben chor. So there are cases where you do pay chatzi kofer. So what does Gemara mean? Kofer sholem amrachman v'lo chatzi kofer. He says shesham tchilas achiyuv hu chatzi. So from the get-go, all you have to pay is half. But kan shachiyuv kofer sholem el shekevan shasu shnayim. And we want to divide up the chiyuv into two. There, the Gemara says we can't do so. Adi Yosef Kamma ayin ba. So again, the way we're interpreting the Gemara here, it's Rav Nachman is Rav Nachman is basically stumped by the question. So I guess what we're saying is, not the way I understood it, that Rav Nachman should be firing questions at Rav Acha, but rather Rav Acha is going to prove his expertise and his sharp scholarship by firing questions to Rav Nachman that Rav Nachman can't answer. Omalei, now he asks a second question. Tonight we have a mission in Erechin on Daf Chaf Aleph. Chayvi Erechin Mashkenoson, Chayvi Chatosa E Mashkenoson. We use the process of mashkon in order to pressure a person to pay up his chov. So if a man says Erki Olai or Erech Ploni Olai, which means they accepted upon himself a debt to the Beis HaMikdash, according to the erech that's formulated in the Torah. And that's in Vayikra Perek Chav Zayin. Is then we're going to use mashkon in order to force the hand of the misnadev, of the person who took upon himself to pay up, because this tashlum is not a kapara, and if it's not a kapara, we always have to worry that maybe he'll take his time, and then at the end he won't bring forth the money. But in the case of chatos v'shamos, there's no need to be mamashkin him, because he needs the chatos and the yashim more than anybody. He needs a kapara for his sin. Is chayve kofer? What's the status in kofer? Do we view kofer as we would view erchin, or do we view kofer and categorize it as we did chayve hashamos? And the Gemara analyzed it. Came on the kapara kechatos miyoshim domi. Since the mazik needs a kapara to save himself from misa b'dei shamayim, therefore he's motivated on his own. We don't need to do a mashkon. It's machmir chomer olev boy mashkon. It's chomer bieno. Why is it so serious in his mind? Because he desperately needs a kapara. His shar killed a person. Oh, Dilma, should we say came into lechamri who deboy lemesav le? We're not talking about a case of paying hegdesh. In the case of paying hegdesh, we certainly, in the case of chatos v'yosham, assume it's chomer b'yene and lo boile mashkune. But here, he's not paying it to hegdesh, although it's a kapara, but he's paying the kapara to the hands of the Yarshim of the victim who was killed, and came into the Chavru de Boy Miasvele, Velola Gavahu, Mamona Huvelo Chamra Boy Mashkune. We need a mashkon to pressure him and guarantee that he'll pay up the kofer. Inami, I have another additional svara to say that we need to impose a mashkon on him to motivate him. He's laid back about it. he didn't do any sin. It was his shar that killed a person. Lo charem milsei luye. He's not so serious about it. It doesn't seem to be chamor bieno. He doesn't appreciate that he needs opinion nefesh. Uboy mashkin, therefore we need the method of mashkin. Amalei Shavkon is Tagir v'Kamaisa. So I guess Rav Nachman is being moda that Rav Acha is an Odom Gadol because he stumped him not once but twice. In other words, he's still quiet and silent and unable to answer the first question, and now you're asking me a second question. Tanur Rabbanon. Okay, now we start a little bit of a new sugya about a shoel. A shoel is responsible for the shar that he borrowed. Now, Shoel b'cheskes tam, the shoel assumed, and he had every right to assume, that the animal's a tam. He didn't know that the animal was a muad, but v'nimtza muad. He finds out that this shar, already in the Rishus and the Mashil, or the Bailim, was established as a shar muad. So what happens now when the shoel did not watch the shor on the best level? The shor went out and attacked someone. Is bailim mishalmim chatzi nezek? V'shol mishalmim chatzi nezek. The bailim have to pay chatzi nezek because the shoel never accepted upon himself the shmir of a shor muad. He was under the impression it's a shor tam. The shoel, for his part, has to pay chatzi nezek, because even if the shor is a shor tam, the way he understood it, mistakenly understood it, he still would have to pay chatzi nezek if the shor went out and attacked someone. Who had the base shoel? When the mashil handed over the shor to the shoel, that point in time the shor was a shor tam, and then while the shor was in the possession of the shoel, it became a shor muad. Now the shoel returns the animal that he borrowed to its owner, and then the shor again goes out and damages. Is bailim mishalmi chatzi nezek v'shol poter miklum. Now this would seem to reflect the shita that we had earlier today of Rishus Meshana, meaning that even though the shor is really a shor muad, and we know that, but it's only muad vis-a-vis the bailim, and if there's a shini Rishus, then it goes back to its original status of being a shor tam. Now, why is this shoel poter in ganzen? So it would seem that since the bailim did not notify, just 1 second. No, but it was a short time in the Rishus Bailim, and it was who had the base shoel. Oh, I see. Yeah, for sure the shoel would be chayev if the shor attacked while he was still a shoel. But here he returned it back to the mashil, and afterwards the shor, which is now in the possession of the mashil, the original owner, went out and damaged and attacked. Therefore, the shoel is poter. Why did the bailim get away with chatzi nezek? Because shini rishus. Omar Mar, let's analyze the first din of this brisa. Muad mishaleh Bailam Mishalim Chatzi Nezek, Shol Chatzi Nezek. Gemara says, Vamai, why is the Shol Chayev for this Negicha, Le? Doesn't the Shol have a right to argue to the Bailam, to the Mashil? Torah She'ili, Aryeh Lo She'ili. I borrowed an ox, I didn't borrow a lion. In other words, you never notified me that this shar is ragil in gach, and therefore I wasn't careful about its shmira. All the shmira is imposed on you. Amar Rav says, you're right. In your scenario, the Bailam should have to pay the entire nezek. But here, the price is talking about a case where the shol has to pay chatzi nezek because hikar boshu naghan. The shoel was notified and well aware of the fact that this shor is ragil in gach. He didn't know that it was nogech already 3 times and it became a muad. But he can't pat himself and say, well, I didn't know to be careful about the shmira, because again, even according to your shita that the shar is a shar tam, you still have to provide shmira. In fact, the Gemara of le tam she'ili muad lo she'ili. Why doesn't the shol have a right to say that I wanted to borrow from you a shar tam? I didn't want to borrow a shar muad. Now I find out that it's a shar muad. I never accepted shmira on this shar. And the answer is mishum diomar le. The Bailam could say to the shoel, sof itam havi, even according to your understanding that the misunderstanding that the shar was a shar tam, palgad and iska boy l'shlume. Don't you have to pay chatzi nezek? Is hashtanami now too that it turns out that the shar in fact is a shar muad, is shalom palganiska. Zil shalom palganiska. Go ahead and pay chatzi nezek. Because even according to your understanding, you would have to pay chatzi nezek. So for name olay, the Gemara asks, why can't the shol retort to the Bailam itam havu is mishtama migufo? If this is a shar tam, the way I understood it to be, then they would collect the chatzi nezek migufo shel shar, and that would mean that the hefset is completely the hefset of the Bailam. And the only reason they're collecting from the gufa, from Minaliyah, is because the shar muad. So if I understand correctly, the Gemara's objection here is, why can't the shoel, why does he have to pay chatzi nezek and participate in the payment of the compensation to the nizak? Why can't he say, look, you know what? You're collecting from my bank account. Well, in my understanding, the shar that you gave me was a shar tam, and a shar tam is only paying me gufa. And where answers mishum the amalei, the baal of the shar has a right to say to the shoel, sof at lav Torah boy shlume lididei. If they would collect the chatzi nezek from the goof of the shar, then you would have to return to me a different shar to replace this shar. Because a shoel, by the very essence of his Kabbalah She'ela, incurred or accepted upon himself a responsibility and obligation to return a shar. And if the shar is not there to be returned, to return a different shar in place of this shar. So therefore, you would have to find another shar to replace this shar, according to your understanding, Mr. Shoel, that the shar is a shar tam. In fact, the Gemara of a name olay, why can't the shoel say to the Bailam,